Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, we are going to take a quick look at Vanaheim. Vanaheim is a newer game, and this is available only through the Game Crafter. I had this game on my wish list for a little bit. I was about ready to pull the trigger and purchase it, and the designer, a guy named John, he actually ended up contacting me, said, "Hey, I'd like to send you a copy of my game." I said, "Hey, that's super cool," because I was just about ready to buy it. So he sent me the base game, and this is the version 1 on the Game Crafter. This has recently been updated to a version 1.1. And there is an upgrade pack that you can buy. But if you buy the game now, you're going to get a little bit of an upgraded version. So he sent me the base game along with one small expansion, and that was for the weapons and the armor. And then I went back and I bought the upgrade pack because the upgrade pack adds a few things, and it also has a better rule book. And then I also added to my purchase the Hall of the Skinwalkers, which is the first kind of thematic expansion to the game. So I'm already kind of invested in this game, even though I was sent the game for a review copy, and I'm pretty excited about the future of this game. Vanaheim is kind of a prototypical dungeon crawl. You are going to be creating a character. You will be going through a series of randomly generated quests, working your way through dungeons down to levels. Each time you completely explore a dungeon and get back to the exit, you will level up. The main goal of the game is to get to level 5, go on that one final level 5 dungeon crawl, find and kill the fire drake, and get the Dragon Skull trophy. And that is kind of how you win the game. However, there are a lot of little things going on besides that, because there is a town phase where you are trying to build up your town, get different buildings in your town in order to unlock certain merchants and certain side quests. There are also a number of kind of bespoke created adventures that you can go on depending on a certain level. So a level 1 character, you can go on a hunt here for Old Tusker. A level 3, you can descend into the Gossamer layer. And these will give you kind of customized, unique encounter tables and some slight rules changes to the overall structure of the game. On the website here, and if you just search for House of Athen and Vanaheim, you will find the website, but I'll also post a link. But the designer is also creating these things called legendary dungeons, and these are pre-constructed dungeons that he has created using certain cards, using certain enemies, using certain treasure, and you just have to go through that and have kind of a unique custom experience made for that one dungeon. And there are also variants and extra level encounter tables that are posted on the website, to where if you've grown tired of the level encounters in the book, then you can go and kind of change things up a little bit. But if you were to look up dungeon crawl in the dictionary, and you might see a game like Vanaheim. And that is to say, it's not pushing a lot of boundaries. It's not doing a lot of things different. You're creating a character, you're going into the dungeon, you're leveling up, you're getting better loot, you're getting more skills, you are fighting stronger armies, all in the hopes of surviving, and to kind of repeat that process over and over again. It can be a very difficult game, like a lot of roguelikes should be. It is very easy to die at lower levels, and so you will go through quite a few characters as you make progress in this game. But let's talk a little bit about the game in general, and then I'll show you all of this stuff and talk a little bit about some of my feelings on the game. So the character I have created here, I have right now, is Cassandra. She is a level 1 warrior. Your skills are listed on the left-hand side here. So we have your combat skill. That's for your melee. That's what you'll be adding to any melee attacks there. This is your aiming ability. That's what you would add to any ranged attacks. This is a ranged bonus. In some of the dungeon rooms that you explore, you will get to take a certain number of ranged attacks before melee starts, before the actual combat starts. And so it's kind of cool. It kind of simulates that you are sneaking around and you see an enemy in the distance. And if you have a higher ranged ability, you will get more actions before combat starts. That's super cool. And then we have an arcane ability here, and that's for your magic ability. As a warrior, I'm at -2 on that. So needless to say, Cassandra won't be casting very many spells. You will have a place to keep track of your coins. Coins are very important in this game because that's how you level up your town. That's how you buy new buildings. Then you will have a place for your HP, your health. I have 7 right now. And then we have our defense skills and our strength. Strength dictates how many items you can store in your inventory as you are exploring. And that is in addition to anything that you have equipped on your character. And then we have a evade value. This is the value that the enemies have to roll or meet or beat in order to hit you. And then you have an armor bonus. If you are wearing armor and you roll to negate damage using that armor, that's the bonus that you get to add to your defense roll. The paper doll style itemization on this game is pretty cool when you get an item. So here, warriors start with a level 1 club, a simple stick to bludgeon opponents into submission. And it will tell you where you equip that on your character sheet. So you just slot that right into your arm there. This is your main hand. There are also weapons here that might be two-handed. And for those to slot in, they take up both hands like that. That's super cool. I like that. That is a neat little touch. But then you can also equip things like belts here. You can equip helmets. You can have something in your backpack. Usually a backpack item will allow you to carry more things in your inventory. And then you can have some additional clothing. So like I said, right now I have a club here. And the club, that is a melee weapon. That shows you how many dice that you roll when you make your attack. Then the gold value down here, this is how much you can sell it for, how much you can buy it for, and where you can buy it or where you can find it. Additionally, I also have a fire jar. This is kind of just like a grenade, a fire grenade here. I have discard to make the following attack. It's a ranged attack with 4 dice. I get to add 1 to each one of those dice to determine if I hit. It does fire damage. I can sell for 3, buy for 3 at the Alchemist, and I can equip this in my offhand weapon or on my belt. Right now, I have that in my offhand weapon. In my town so far, because I have gone on an adventure, I've gotten some gold, and so I was able to buy the notice board. All towns will start off with a tavern, and this is the main build. This is the starting building in your town. This is the place that you can go to rent a room or to drink ale in order to restore some health. You can always spend 1 coin to restore 1 health, or at the beginning of the game, you can spend 1 coin to rent a room to regain 4 health. But the more key icons that are in your town, the more buildings that you've built, then it costs more to rent a room. So it'll cost more to heal. That's kind of like a balancing out thing, because as you grow your town, your character is going to become stronger. And so to offset that a little bit, it'll start costing a little bit more to heal. The first thing I did in my game is when I left my first dungeon, I spent 1 gold in order to unlock this notice board. And this notice board will add certain cards to our side quest deck. And these are things that we can do in the dungeon to get more gold and to have more experiences. Every building that we have in our town will have a certain icon associated with it. And let's just take a look at all of the buildings that we have so far. There's a guild house, an inn, a stable, a smithy, an alchemist, and a shop. And each one of those icons in the upper right-hand corner will add a certain cards. So we'll add certain cards to our side quest deck as we unlock them. And each one of these buildings that we add will add something that we can do in between dungeons. We can learn new skills. We can reset our skills in the inn, because most skills are a 1-use power. You flip them face down, and then you have to stay at the inn in order to re-trigger those skills in order to use them again. We have a stable where we can hire animal companions. We have a smithy where we can buy certain kinds of gear, an alchemist where we can buy gear, and a shop where we can buy gear. So those are all buildings that we can build in our town. And then here is our side quest deck. So right now, these are the quests that I have available to me. And then each time I leave the dungeon, I can have one of these drawn and turned face up. So we can have a bounty, a wild hunt, a market, a hunter, and a trapper side quest. Right now, my side quest here is report from the depths. So if I leave the dungeon where the stairs cards is in play, and that means that the dungeon has been fully explored, then I get a 2 gold bonus at the end of that quest. And then we have all kinds of different quests here. So these are the quests associated with the stable. And then we have the blacksmith quests. We have the inn quests there. The merchant, I think, merchant quest there, and then the alchemist quest. So all kinds of different quests that we can add to our notice board quest deck. When we set up the dungeon, we can choose to go on one of these kind of story missions. We can, as a level 1 character, we can fight Old Tusker. Or if we were level 3, we could go down to the Gossamer Lair. But most of the time, you're going to be going on these exploration quests. And these are just random quests, like you would random dungeon crawls, like you would find in a roguelike. And depending on which dungeon level, you will add a certain number of cards to your dungeon deck, and you will have a certain encounter table to trigger which enemies you will be fighting. So we are still level 1. So our level 1 quest and an exploration quest, our level 1 dungeon will consist of 12 cards plus the stairs. So we take our entrance. So this is always used. This is where we enter the dungeon. The new version 1.1 also comes with a little mini that you can add to keep track of where you are. These are our stair cards, and this is our objective room. This is used in those story quests. This is kind of like the objective room that you would find in Warhammer Quest or Darklight Memento Mori. This would usually trigger a boss fight, or this would be where you are looking for your MacGuffin in order to find that certain item and get out. In the regular exploration quests, we don't use this objective room there. We do use the stairs though, so this is what we're trying to find in our dungeon, and this leads down to the next level. And so to complete a level 1 dungeon, we have to find the stairs and then shuffle our dungeon cards back up and then look for the exit. So the entrance becomes the exit. We have to get in, find the stairs, and then get out through the exit in order to level up. Then you have all of these other dungeon cards that you will be adding to your deck. Most of these are just art. This is one place where I think the game could be improved a little bit, is if some of these special rooms that the various cards had, if they had little custom tables that you could roll up for certain cool little things, little maybe non-combat encounter things, little adventures that you could have in these little rooms. But most of these cards will just be art with some icons, and the icons will kind of dictate what you do when you enter that room. If you enter a room that has a skull icon, then you roll up on the encounter table for that level that you are on, applying the modifier. Negative numbers will mean that the encounter is easier. Positive modifiers will mean that the encounter is more difficult. You will also sometimes find these little money bag symbols, and those will allow you to draw some loot. There are 2 loot decks. We have our standard treasure deck, and the treasure deck always consists of only the treasure of the level you are on or lower. So when you're starting off on level 1, you don't have a great selection of treasure to find. You might have an event where a wall collapses, but you can find some ore, or maybe a broken weapon there, or a copper cup. A flower that can heal you, some fresh meat, some ripped furs, a pouch of copper, some lumber, or a pile of furs. And these are all basically items that you just want to get out of the dungeon with, so you can sell to get more money. But as you start going up in levels, you will start adding more interesting items to your treasure deck. And when you hit level 2, you actually add quite a few. So the level 2s, once you hit level 2, these will then be added to your level 1s. And here you have a chest of copper coins, maybe an onyx pendant, a purse of bronze coins. Here we have a bleeding wound, so you have an injury. You might find a talisman or an uncut amethyst, a marble statue, gem fragments, questionably fresh meat. And then you also add a whole bunch of different events, such as a locked door, a quiet corner, a rally point, a campfire, tribal territory, and event tracks. So the level 2 treasure deck gets a lot more interesting than just the level 1 treasure deck. And then you have also cards where you will add when you're at level 5, level 4, level 3, and so on. So you will take your level 1 treasure deck and you will shuffle that up. You also have a deck of item cards, and the item cards are always mixed all together, and these are ranged from levels 1 to level 5 items. If you ever draw an item that does not meet the level requirement, that you are on, then you automatically have to discard it. So you can't take more powerful treasure out and sell. If you draw if you are at level 1 and you draw a level 2 short bow, you just shuffle that back into the deck and you find nothing. But there are level 1 weapons. You can find this javelin, or if you're a level 3 orb, another club possibly, a stave there, a sling for some ranged weapons, a wand. You can find some leather armor, another sling, a torch, a shield. So there are all kinds of different items that you can find. This level 5 plate mail. And each one of these weapons will usually have some certain stats, such as this javelin can be used as a ranged weapon or a melee weapon. It's equipped in your main hand, and you roll 2d6 when you make an attack. This rapier here, you roll 3d6. It does critical damage, and it is a fast weapon. So that goes before all normal speed and slow speed attacks there. A torch is a slow weapon, but it does fire. But while this is equipped, if there is no card in the face-up map deck, add one from the map deck. So the torch makes exploration a little easier. So some of the weapons, some of the items are just used for combat. Some of them will have special things that you can do, special powers that you can trigger, and so on. It's a pretty cool loot system. I like it. And that system of just not where you can't keep more powerful gear, I think that does a good job in simulating the fact that it's just harder to find treasure when you are at level 1, because it's harder to find those level 1 treasures. The levels 1 and level 2 in this game, they're very difficult. You will spend a lot of time moving in, exploring a few rooms of the dungeon, and then just going out before you fully explore it, with a few little pieces of treasure from your loot deck in order to sell, in order to build up your town, heal, and so on. So let's take our 12 cards for our first level here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we will take our staircase there and we will shuffle that up. All right. And then we can start exploring our dungeon here. Let's move these town cards here. We don't need these right now. So to explore, basically when you are in the dungeon, you are either in combat or out of combat. When you are out of combat, you can draw a new card from your exploration deck to move further into the dungeon. Okay, so we have found a dead end here. If you ever make a dead end and you can't further explore, you discard that card face up. And then you can choose to, when you explore again, you can choose to take a face up card from your discard deck or a face down card. So you have a little bit of a choice. And that's kind of where that torch comes in. That torch allows you to have more cards in your discard pile. So you have a little bit of a better chance of finding a card that you might want to while you are exploring. Okay, so here we have a nice crossroads, and this is an encounter at a -1. So we would place that crossroads, we would move our token into that room, and then we would roll up on our encounter table at a -1. And I rolled a 6, ouch, a 5. Okay, so I would be facing off against a dust snake. This is a good opportunity now to take a look at the monsters. There are a lot of monsters, a lot of enemies in this game to find. Things from a chimerat, a wild Devokobi. I have no idea how to say that word. It's a Dover, but a Dover Kobe, I guess. A wolf, a dust snake. That's the guy we're fighting right now. An elder Noxer, a cunning Dover Kobe, a huge spider, a raging forgotten, a Verslin brute, an Asafro, a Verslin chief, a boar. So all kinds of different enemies. Most of the enemies will have all of their stats there on their card. They will have how many dice they roll, what the modifier is. That is their evasive value. So that's what I have to meet or beat to hit them. And then their defense there, or their hit points. Some of the enemies will have health there, showing that this is 2 health and a gray border. If the border is completely gray, once they get damaged all the way, you flip that over to their wounded side, and then you continue the fight. Any damage that might carry over can carry over to their damaged side, their wounded side. The enemies that have a gray and red border, they don't have a wounded side. They are only one-sided. Some of the enemies are pretty interesting, even at lower levels. So these Dover Kobe's here, when you kill them, you flip it over. So when you wound them, you flip it over, but you don't get to continue fighting their wounded side. They flee at this time and they go off and they scuttle away and they hide. And then the next time you face a monster, they get added to that monster stack and then you have to fight 2 monsters. So they go off and hide and then they ambush you on their wounded side. That's pretty cool. And a lot of the monsters do have neat things like that. So here we have our dust snake. It's an animal. It's hidden, so it's harder to see when you are making ranged attacks. It's flammable. If this monster takes fire damage, it suffers a -1 penalty to its rolls. So that's kind of cool. I don't have any way. I do have a way to deal some fire damage though, but it is a ranged attack, so that would be harder for me to hit a snake with that grenade there. When it attacks me, it rolls 2d6 and adds 1. It can do critical damage. It has an evade of 4 and 2 health, and it also gets an armor roll because it's probably fast. So I would roll 1 d6, and then on a 6, this snake would get to avoid my damage. This is a pretty hard creature, especially right now. I might want to just flee and start this dungeon over because this snake can quickly dispatch me. But just for an example, he doesn't have a fast attack, and I don't have a fast attack, so we're just doing normal attacks. The heroes attack first. So my club, I roll 2d6, and I have to get a 4 or higher. Okay, so I have 1 4 there, or 1 5. So that's 1 hit, so that's 1 point of damage. However, the snake can roll his armor there, and if I roll a 6, he negates that. No. Okay, so I did 1 point of damage to the snake, so I would add 1 there. And then now the snake would attack me, and it gets to add +1 to each of its rolls. I have a defense of 4 or an evade of 4, and so that's 1 hit. He does critical damage, so that means that each hit does 2 damage. So the snake would do 2 damage to me, and so on. And we would continue doing that until one of us is dead. And then each of the monsters also has a reward that you get for when you defeat that monster. So the monsters are pretty interesting. The combat is pretty simple. It's mostly pretty quick, and it's a lot of luck, but there are bonuses. There are some ways to mitigate some of that luck. So you would continue exploring, maybe a dead end there and coming back. So there are some cards where that they have a re-trigger symbol or a reinforcement symbol. And those, every time you enter that tile, you have to encounter a creature. But eventually you will find your staircase, and that's where you would kind of reset the dungeon to where you would take all of your cards, and then you would shuffle those up again, and then you would start exploring from your staircase, working your way back out until eventually you had found that exit. And then if you find that exit, you can leave the dungeon, and then you would level up to level 2. And then at that point, you would probably have some more gold. And at that point, you could add another building to your village, maybe unlocking the guild house or a stable or something. Then as you level up, you get to learn skills. And this is one part where I think the rules could be a lot clearer in the book about how skills work, how they are added, how you gain skills, and so on. I'm hoping that John, I've let him know that it's a little confusing still. I think the second version of the rule book is actually quite a bit better than the first version, but it's still not perfect. There is still a little bit to be desired about the rule book. The documentation's a little rough. But you will have a certain number of skills, and those skills will be assigned a number. So you have level 1 skills, and then 2 skills, and 3 skills. And then you will also have spells, and there are 2 skills of spells. We have sorcery and we have hexes. As you level up, you will be able to learn skills, and you can have a number of skills equal to your level. So at level 2, we could have 2 1 skills, or we could have 1 2 skills. At level 3, we could have a 2 and a 1, and so on. Most of the skills are one-use items, or not one-use items, they're one-use abilities. As you go into the dungeon, you might have this strength here, colossal strength. Actually, colossal strength is pretty interesting. This gets equipped to your offhand weapon, and it allows you to kind of simulate that you are like a pack mule, and you can carry things that normally you aren't able to carry in your inventory. So you can haul greater loads of treasure out. That's kind of cool. But some of these might be tenacious or sneak here. So sneak is a free action. Instead of rolling an encounter, roll no dice and reveal no monster. Then flip this card. So you would flip it over, and then you can't use that again until it gets flipped back over. And one of the only ways to flip a skill back over is to actually build the inn and stay at the inn. So the inn is an important building that you want to build in your village. That will give you a chance to rearm your skills. So we have things like second wind, dual casting. Let's take a look here. Prepared. You can prepare more sorceries, more hexes. You can smash the armor of enemies there. You can stun, so the enemies will have a negative modifier to their attack roll. You can hide, feint. You can be dexterous. You can have a nature skill, a sneak skill, tenacious, herbalist, a defensive stance, a calculated shot, dual casting, and second wind. And then our 2-point skills here, we have aggressive stance, shadows, ambidextrous, critical shot, sniper, sorcery, hexes, wise, favorable terrain, and resilient. And once you learn a skill that allows you to take in spells, then you can start adding these spells in the same way that you would add skills. So our hexes here, we have freezing touch, aura of revenge, curse, flame lash. And these attack spells, they tell you that you use your arcane, you roll 4 dice, each dice gets a +1 and it does flame damage, and then flip this card. So this is a 1-use spell until you are able to flip that back over. And then here we have our sorceries, Word of Fate, Lightning Bolt, Magical Glyph, Drain Elements, Knit Wounds, and Shadow Leap, and so on. So in addition to this stuff, everything you've seen so far has been in the base game, in the new version of the base game that is available right now. John also sent me a small booster expansion, and this is for weapons and armor. And this comes with two new buildings. We have a Master Smith and a house. The house costs 20 and the Master Smith costs 10. So yeah, this house can become your base of operations. So this is a thing that you can add to your village, another building that you can build, and you can also build your Master Smith now. So the expansions will also expand your town. But then these are a bunch of different weapons that you can add to your item deck, ranging from levels 1 to level 5. Some items are shown here with this diamond symbol. Those means those items don't get added to your item deck. Those are special items for quests, and so you're always supposed to set those aside. So this little expansion comes with a couple extra relic items, more powerful items that you want to set aside. But you will have things like here, that's the ensorcelled saber, the rune stones, a great hammer, a spiked collar. So collars get added to your animal companions. There are ways to rent out and to find hounds and mutts. You can, if you have a stable, you can find a donkey, or you can rent a donkey, a horse. You can also hire apprentices. So you have an apprentice, and in one of the quests, you can find a hostage there, and these will become companions that will join you on a quest. So there are also some items here. You can find an armor for your dog there, dog armor. That's kind of cool. A parrying dagger, a focus, all kinds of things there to get added to your item deck. And then there are also these little expansions, and this is the Hall of the Skinwalker's Adventure. And I think right now, there are 2 adventure expansions, or this one is done and ready, you can buy, and then there's one more that's about ready to come up. But this is a whole pack of cards that adds just a whole bunch of different elements that you can add to your game. So this is a level 2 adventure. Here you get a little story about this adventure. You get your encounter table for this adventure, your extra rules for this adventure, and then how to implement the cards for this adventure here. So we have a new companion here. So this is Nisaros, and this is a guy that we're trying to rescue. And as soon as we rescue him, he becomes a companion, and he can help us out a little bit. You will have a new objective room, this moon room. You will have a number of different enemies to fight in this expansion here, the Moonhound, and then different skinwalkers. So this is kind of a werewolf, lycanthrope style adventure. You will have a number of different items here, such as Mani's spear, or the potion of strength, the silvered saber, the cuirass of stars, and these are diamond items, so those get added to your special item deck. And then we have some different items to add to our other deck of items here, such as silvered arrows, a broadsword, broadsword, glaive, a bane wand, a flail, a silver dagger, and a hand crossbow. So we can just add those to our decks over there. We have a new building that we can add here, and that is the manor. And this is a new manor that we can add for 10 gold. And then we have some new spells, some new skills, couple new quests that we can add for when we add that Nasiros Manor. We can add those quests to our quest deck and a bunch of new items or new loot to find on our various levels. So this is pretty cool. I'm very excited about the future of this game because John, the designer, seems really devoted to it. He's already added all kinds of stuff. Even on the website, you can go and find different adventures. You can find those pre-made dungeons that you can go through. You can find variants to the encounter tables. He's already got expansions out, and he seems really devoted to the game, and I'm excited about the game's future. I think right now it's in a pretty good place. I like this town phase. I like that you're building up your town as you go. I think this is super cool, and I like that the different buildings will unlock different things as you go. I like how I like how every time you add a building to your town, you also get to add some cards to your quest deck. That is super cool. And that quest deck, as it is growing, as it is changing, as you are experiencing new quests, different things start to unravel and different experiences start to happen on your table. I would like to see a little bit more variety in the non-combat encounters. I would like to see some more kind of custom tables for the various rooms and things that you might find in the dungeon. I wish these dungeon cards were maybe lettered so it would be easy to cross-reference to a table. Like if you came across this room and it was letter A, you could roll a d6 and look on table A to have something happen in this particular room. I think that would be pretty cool. I might just take a silver Sharpie and maybe add that to my cards or something. Like a lot of Game Crafter games, it's a little on the expensive side. I think if you were to buy everything, you're looking at about $70, which isn't cheap. But again, every time you buy something from the Game Crafter, your copy is getting printed up. You know, they have no economy of scale with Game Crafter. And I don't think if it wasn't for Game Crafter, games like this probably wouldn't exist. So Game Crafter is definitely a double-edged sword. I'm happy that it does exist for games like this. Yes, I wish the prices could be cheaper, but that is just kind of the nature of this kind of game that comes with a lot of stuff. It's going to be more expensive to print. And maybe there will be a crowd sale sometime. I think John should probably do a crowd sale now that the game is in a pretty good position. He could offer a crowd sale for the base game, and then you could add the expansions, and that would be super cool. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at Vanaheim. If you're interested, go check it out on the Game Crafter, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.